Welcome back to Spoonful of AI, the podcast about AI and how it's being used across all industries: food, tech, entertainment, you name it, and we're talking about how people are using it in their businesses. Guests come on the show. Today we have Raj Singh. He worked on a summer weekend hobby project, and it became GPT Food Cam, a food logging app that's free. A project that's going to help people, and using AI helped him get it done. And we talk about Solo, a new AI website builder for solopreneurs. Raj, heading up Solo at Mozilla, explains how it works and helps the creator economy. That's one example. We also talk about Her, the movie Her, and how we might want an OS like that. And unfortunately, how internet isn't quite there yet. It goes out all the time. Am I right? All right, let's get into it. All right, we are here with Raj Singh, head of Solo for Mozilla. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, as long as the internet gods allow it, because broadband internet.
I saw some NPS scores for Comcast and PG&E, trying to see which one could be lower.
It's crazy. We talk about AI on this podcast. We talk about future technology. Yet at the same time, the internet, when you try to do a podcast, still unstable.
During COVID, there was like a ton of work around WebRTC acceleration and all that stuff. And there's been some substantial improvement, but it's surprising this is the case. Hopefully fiber solves all of this. So maybe coming soon, but not there yet.
But until then, we will have a conversation and make it work with the internet as it is. And today we're talking about AI, and that's what we do on this podcast. I'd love to talk to you. Obviously, your main job is working with it right now in Solo. And why don't you tell our listeners how you use AI with the product itself and also in your day-to-day?
Yeah, so Solo is a product I pitched and built for Mozilla. One of the things, a litmus test I often use when looking at AI kind of products is I call it like sort of my own 95% rule. And basically what I'm trying to determine is a 95% output good enough? So there's some applications where people want AI to be perfect. And that's problematic because I've been working in the space of AI long enough to know that that's never the case. And so a good example of that was during a scheduling era like Calendly. There was all these assistants trying to automatically schedule your meeting, but it would get it wrong 1-2% of the time. And then people were like, oh no, it's not working. And the winner there obviously was the most manual experience, which was Calendly. So full circle with generative AI, it's really good at producing text. And in 2020, 2021, during COVID, when schools were shut down, I was teaching my son how to play chess, and I wanted to teach other kids how to play chess for free, just to keep people occupied. And so I went to Wix and Squarespace, as you'd expect, started trying to create a website, and then got hung up on gathering all the images, writing the content. There's a surprising number of options involved, and I think I'm probably in the 90% bucket here, where spent an hour, never ended up publishing it. It was a little bit frustrating. So fast forward, I saw Gen AI, and I said, wow, this is an incredible example of where you could marry the two and quickly generate a website for a user because it's really good at producing text, and it's okay if it's only 95% accurate because you can then go in and further edit it and make it your own. So sort of building on that thesis, we launched Solo. We launched 1.0 just in June. We launched a beta last year in December sort of timeframe, and it's been going great. It's been growing at Mozilla. It's become this beachhead for Mozilla to sort of enter this SMB category.
Cool. Yeah, I think that having, like you said, a website builder, which there's a million of them out there right now, but you still have to gather those images. You still have to do all that work to make it happen and actually put it together. And to have AI basically help us with that seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah. So I think you're seeing from a macro perspective, you're hearing these terms like co-pilot, agents, agent of the future, whatever you want to call it, and assistants. And really what you're seeing occupation to occupation, concerted efforts on how Gen AI can make you more productive or can be your superpower. The way I like to often describe it is the role of Gen AI is to really replace your low leverage work so you can focus on your high leverage work. So things that were just eating
Mm.
up time. Not everybody has that admin, or not everybody has like a real assistant. Now you have one, and so the real trick is trying to figure out what things you can automate and how to do so. And many, people I meet don't even realize that they can, for example, paste a screenshot into ChatGPT or Copilot or Perplexity or whatever they're using, and it will actually give you input and feedback from a design perspective, or it'll actually evaluate what you built from an accessibility perspective. Uh, Others don't
Yeah.
realize they can draft a quick privacy policy and tinker with it through chat. And so, what we're seeing is really everybody having their own assistant, and so it's super charging everyone. And I think really the archetypes that are going to succeed over the next several years, or next coming years, are going to be investing energy in figuring out how to use those tools to really supercharge what they do.
Yeah, I think we talk about that on the podcast a lot about it being a partner, AI being a partner and helping you achieve what you're trying to achieve. And, lots of times it can give you ideas as well, and it can give you brand new thought or whatever. And you're still the one producing the thing and figuring out what you want to do, but it's helping you along the way. I think a tricky bit right now, because we're in that kind of gray zone in between spot where it's helping us, but then sometimes it does things we don't want it to, or it's not doing the things we want it to. It's like finding the things that is best use case for, like, helping us.
Yeah, so I think what I have found, and really we've kind of seen this even at Mozilla, right? So Mozilla is 1,000 people, and um, as like any organization or any population, you have early adopters and you have folks that are trying things late. And so what I have found interesting is how much people appreciate when I go and show them, for example, how I use Gen AI to supercharge my work as a product manager. So
Hmm.
I think that metaphor applies in every occupation. And a lot of it is just simply showing, like, hey, did you know, in finance, you can actually take that complicated, unstructured CSV data or whatnot and send it to Gen AI, and it'll structure it for you and put it in a nice, neat little table and that you can export, which otherwise would have taken, a bunch of manipulation in Google Sheets or Excel. So these are use cases that are not obvious. And then somebody shows, and you're like, "Oh, that's really interesting." And so I think one of the things that's really neat about all of this is people are still discovering how
Yeah.
best to use these tools. And as people are discovering it, people are actively sharing it, whether on social or in blogs and whatnot. And people are like, "Oh, I should go try that. I should go try that." And as this sort of education continues to happen, I think you're just going to see this massive productivity boost pretty much across the entire sort of knowledge worker industry.
Yeah, I feel like it's very similar to other technological jumps we've had. And think of the smartphone, you think of the apps, and you're like, oh wait, this could just be an app. Our whole business could be on a phone. What are you talking about? And so it's always met with a kind of a little confusion. And like you said, the learning part is a huge part of it. But that will come, and that is happening right now. And people are learning by others, people showing them what they're doing. And also just the technology is moving so fast that just when we think we've figured out what it can do to help us, it's like doing something new, or it can do something new. So I think another challenge is for companies to understand, that a new thing is going to be on the horizon, and to maybe build for, like, future as well, and not just build for right now, because it is moving so fast.
Yeah, so we're seeing that, or I wouldn't say necessarily like Mozilla, but what I'm seeing or hearing from on the ground, you are seeing like amongst Fortune 500, how they're even thinking about budget. They're allocating budget that may have otherwise, let's say, gone to additional spend with an existing vendor, to saying, hey, we need to spend this on internal tooling and experimentation with Gen AI. We need to invest here to see if this can automate some workflows, speed up things, whatnot. And then you have, strong statements. Like, for example, I saw recently Klarna had shared that they were replacing Salesforce and HubSpot because they have been able to re-implement the portions they needed. I think it was HubSpot. It was definitely Salesforce. Re-implement the portions they needed through Gen AI, and that's kind of wild, right? And so part of me goes like, okay, they're probably only using 1% of those products. How real is this? Is this just a PR grab? But part of me is also saying that's not an isolated thing. A lot of the software when you build for enterprise, you ultimately are becoming a feature factory because every enterprise has their sort of own workflows. And so, to the extent that Gen AI is rapidly generating the code to complete those workflows, and you have integration, marketplaces like Zapier and whatnot that can plug into all the different tools, that does enable an environment where you may be able to build a bunch of things very cheaply that are maybe 80% of the way there and satisfactory, but then at 1/10 the cost.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we're talking about integration into like existing software kind of as well. Kind of jumps into the app that I was going to mention on the show, which is Adobe's Firefly. They've kind of shown it behind closed doors. I think it's going to be out very soon. And what that is essentially the video integration into things like Premiere, where you would normally have like say you have a section of a video you're editing and you don't have B-roll for it. Firefly will help you essentially generate AI generated B roll for those little in between sections,
Right.
amongst other things.
Correct. Yeah, I think you can also use it. I mean, I don't know if it's under the same branding, but the stuff they're doing with images, I think they call that something else. But this sort of the real magic eraser. Like I want to place this background with a.
Yeah, and all that's being built into like the idea of existing software, just kind of adding on this piece. And I think it makes a lot of sense for things that are already like being used. Like I use Premiere every day. A lot of people do. And then you go, okay, well, that's easier to understand when we're talking about learning because I'm already using that workflow. And so I'm already using Photoshop. So when I do the generative AI, which I do, and just select something and want to change it, which by the way, you can do now. Back to your point, maybe people don't know they could do that, but in Photoshop, you can literally circle something and say teddy bear and just, get something else in there. And so I think it's just the learning curve is easier when the software is something people use all the time. So people know Firefox, Mozilla as well. So maybe that helps.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, on that note, you're seeing really interesting takes on things that you can do in the browser with Gen AI, Firefox, Mozilla. I believe in the nightly builds, I need to double check, has released something they're calling Orbit, but basically, summarize the page, summarize the article, ask questions about what you're reading. But these are natural things that you would expect, and I think the core thing here is anytime there's a new technology, whether it's like P2P, whether it's blockchain, whatever it might be, there's a ton of experimentation going on, and you do have sometimes an instance where people are putting the technology in front of the problem, which can be problematic, but it usually trickles out and it filters out, and over enough time horizon, it really does become a layer, and you see the experience sort of embedded into a whole range of things where it is actually helping improve a real problem.
Yeah, I think we've solved it. We've I think we just said how you use AI in existing software or within future software. That's it. Just listen to this episode and you figured it out.
Yeah.
Raj, what other AI software are you using? I use everything. I use all the image generators, all the video generators. I'm using right now Minimax, which is this really insane Chinese version of AI video. I mentioned Adobe Firefly because that's coming out soon. And again, I love using stuff that is in already software that I'm using. Like I'm using Premiere, I'm using Photoshop. The AI parts of that just help me do my work better.
Yeah.
Is there something that maybe you're using that's not at work that helps you do your work better?
So multi-part, not at work that helps me do my work better. So
Yeah, I know maybe very specific.
uh, I'll give a couple examples here. So, I'm in product management, and product manager jobs are uh, you do a wide range of activities, and it's been fascinating how I've replaced whole ranges of workflows just through using things like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatnot. And this is everything from generating SQL queries or BigQuery to do data analytics, which normally I would have had to involve a data scientist. Now I can basically um, work with somebody to help me build sort of the first example, share the database schema, and then ChatGPT can use that example and then generate new derivative queries that I can use to get the data I need, which is phenomenal. Uh, um, in a
Hmm.
similar vein, analyzing UX, as I mentioned, competitive market research. Previously, you may have had somebody to help you with that because of just the time it takes to go build, let's say, a pricing table or whatever it might be. These things are being generated immediately. So I think all of those examples, I mean, there's tons and tons of examples, and I'm kind of ripping through them really quickly, are just totally game changing. On a personal front, I just built something for fun over some weekends this summer, not related to my work at Mozilla, but just something I personally needed, which was for food logging. And so, I worked with a food coach yeah, over a year ago for like 6 to 9 months. I would take a photograph of everything I ate, and then I would text it to him, and then we'd discuss asynchronously. And so after that sort of wrapped up, I went, like most people, to the App Store and kind of looked at what was out there. Lose It, MyFitnessPal. There's lots of great apps out there, but the experiences are really, really tedious. You have to like kind of open the app, click the meal, choose the serving, enter the
Hmm.
ingredients, choose the serving sizes. I mean, it's a pain. You could attach a photo. It's so tedious that you pretty much give up after a week or two. And I gave up after a week or two. I'm like, this is insane. And I was like, why we can't just take a photo and get what we need, and also do it for free? Not have to pay like $10 a month or whatever. And so we launched something called GPT Food Cam, and that's basically what it does. You click, it opens the app, and you just take a photo, and it gives you the calories, and you have a food diary with your calories right there. It's amazing. And so it's phenomenal how you can take, we talk about productivity boost, but we don't talk about how this is also just massive user experience improvements, as well as business model disruption. The fact that things like that, the cost of this sort of AI query, what they call inference, is just it's all happening so fast, but it's also coming down to the price of basically zero, that you can now do these like really complex tasks where previous apps, experiences, SaaS services, tools, whatnot, would be charging like 10, 15, $20 a month just to facilitate that.
Hmm.
So you're seeing disruption across multiple axes, not just in terms of productivity.
We could have and probably should have a whole episode based on just displacement and disruption, because essentially that is where we're teetering on the precipice of a massive, I think, disruption. By the way, I love your food cam idea. I want it. Is it on the App Store right now?
Yeah, you can just search for GPT space food space cam, and you can find it. It was just
I'm gonna
published
get it.
last week. So it was just a simple side hobby project, but it's gotten some great reviews, and I think it's because it's just so simple. It's like it's not trying to be a business. It's just trying to be a really simple tool
Yeah.
that's useful.
Hey, great things are built that way. And I think that I totally relate to that idea of like, there's so many things that I want to keep track of in my life, but up until now, it's been laborious to actually do that through an app, because an app didn't make it easier, because I still had to input a bunch of stuff, including like you do like weight or diet stuff. It just takes forever. So anything that can help with that, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Um, in closing, I have one thought I just thought of when you mentioned Claude. I use Claude all the time. And again, just kind of natural workflow, talk to Claude, ask it questions. And then my question to you, and I think every guest now from here on out, is after you're finished with a query with Claude or your LLM of choice, do you thank it?
Do I thank the query? No.
Oh, this is maybe problematic for you.
No, so I skip all the platitudes with the queries. So
Huh.
I'm not taking the leap to think of it as her, as AGI. But that being said, I remember there was some reports published after. So I had I'm sort of a deviating, but I had two startups ago. I was working out of SRI, which is Stanford Research Institute, where Siri was incubated and born, and they had a bunch of data around Siri and how early on that was also a behavior. People would thank it for ordering the food from the restaurant or checking the seat on seat here or
Hmm.
whatever it was. And so it is amazing when you look at things like Character.ai and their growth, and just sort of the uh, uh, anthropomorphism. I forget the word I'm looking
I don't
for.
know what that word is. Yeah, yeah.
Where they're turning virtual bots into real people. Like, it's a thing, and it's kind of wild because it's the virtual girlfriend or whatever you want to call it, like a virtual boyfriend, whatnot. It's like it's fascinating to see how this plays out in these cultural trends. And so I guess we'll have better data and insight in 5 years and what this all means. But it is a thing.
I have 3 things to say to that. 1, I do want Her because the movie Her, when that happened, and in general, let me break it down. The OS that kind of like just can do things for me quickly because my Windows is still dumb. Like my Windows is very dumb. And I have to like every night it turns off. I've got to change the power settings in the morning. It's so dumb. So I just want it to be smarter. Okay. So that's one thing. Second, you're right. There's a bunch of, people who are just definitely like adhering to having a relationship with an AI of choice. And it's like a dedicated app usually that is, whatever character that they want to be involved with. But I was actually asking, and the question is more like because we see some behaviors now with AI doing things on its own, it's just that down that route. It'll be like, I'm gonna cover my bases and say thanks, just in case later it gets
Yeah,
a little upset.
there was a
That's all I was thinking.
there was a really fascinating report published. I don't remember if it was from Palantir or if it was from like the U.S. Air Force or Navy or whatnot, but it was basically in the flight simulator. The AI was instructed to go and bomb this particular area, and the flight simulator person operating it would basically push the airplane away anytime it got close because they decided they didn't want to bomb it. So they would like override and bring it back, and then eventually in the simulator, the AI bombed the simulator station because it's like, hey, you're preventing me from finishing my objective. And people are like,
Oh,
wow. I wish I don't have
wow.
the link handy, but it's a good sort of thing to research into just basically how these things are trained. And so I don't mean to share that in a fearful way. I'm of the bucket that we're a long way from that kind of sort of artificial general intelligence. But
Yeah.
I do think the interface of the future is going to be different. The amount of work that we're just doing through a simple chat interface is remarkable. And, we think of chat as the output being text, but the output could be multimodal too. You could be asking questions and the output comes out as a spreadsheet, or it comes out as some
Oh, yeah.
WYSIWYG tool, or it comes out as some visual that you can manipulate or whatever, right? And so it's going to become multimodal, whether it's audio, video, input, output, different UIs and whatnot. Web pages are generated dynamically. I mean, this is definitely the way things are going. And so I think it's really fascinating. Obviously, one, being at Mozilla and just thinking about the future of the web and the internet and browser, but the impact on Google and search. And so I think this is a technology that's here to stay, and this is as disruptive as the iPhone.
100%. Oh, that's a great quote. She's used that for the whole episode of the podcast. And yeah, to that point of like open the pod bay doors, 2001 type thing. There was another report that a code, I don't know what it was, but some code was supposed to figure out a problem. It couldn't figure it out. And it said, I think its programming was like, stop at some point, and it decided to rewrite its own code to keep going to
Yeah,
solve the problem.
yeah,
And I was like, yeah, okay. So, anyways, that's why I thank my AI, just
yeah,
in case.
yeah. I mean, I think we're a long ways from that personally, but there's
Yeah,
a lot of
probably.
different perspectives there.
Well, Raj, thanks so much for being here. People can check out Solo. When is that? Is that launching already or?
Yeah, that's live. It's awesome in the
Okay.
sense that it's the only place on the internet you can connect and host your custom domain for free. We know how many dark patterns there are in GoDaddy and Wix and Squarespace, and so it's at
Yes.
soloist.ai, soloist.ai, and then the other app I mentioned earlier was gptfoodcam.com.
I'm gonna check both of those out as soon as this call's over. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
And Raj, you're welcome back on the show anytime before the AGI like becomes a reality. We should talk
I'm sure
before that.
once that's reality, I don't know if we'll be able to connect anymore.
I know. Maybe the internet will be better though. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah, no, I know it's
All right, Raj, thanks so much for being here, and we'll talk to you in a little bit.
okay. Thanks. Bye.